Hey everyone, it's MusicTechHelpGuy, and in this video I'm going to show you one of my favorite modulation tricks that involves using the Tremolo plugin along with the ES2 and its sidechain input here. Real quick, I want to talk about the sponsor for today's video, Humit. Humit is a free social music discovery app that syncs with Spotify so you can discover and share new music. Share songs and stations from your phone without the need for URLs. Listen to music shared by people with similar interests, discover new artists, share snippets of your favorite songs, and chat with friends. Whatever vibe or genre you're looking for, Humit's got a station for that. And if you're a producer, an artist, or you're in a band, you can create your own custom station to build your music following. So hop onto Humit and enjoy a new social media app made for music lovers like you. Now, the ES2 is one of few instruments in Logic that has a sidechain input. And what you can do with this is you can use an audio source or a software instrument as a sidechain input source to control modulation within the synthesizer. Alchemy has this, Sculpture also has this, and I think a couple other synths in Logic have this as well, but I've really only found this effective with the ES2. Okay, so let's get right into this. So I've got just a 4 on the floor kick here. It's going to be like an intro section with like a build up. So nothing there right now. And then over here is where I guess the beat drops. And I've got a couple crashes, a bass, and then I've got a kick and then hi-hat and snare. So I want to create like an additional synth instrument, like a lower synth instrument that's kind of warped sounding. So I'm going to start just by creating a new software instrument. And on this software instrument, I'm going to add the ES2. Now, a lot of people ask me, why do you always use the ES2? It's such an old instrument. But in my opinion, the ES2 is great if you're just looking for classic synth sounds, bass sounds, synth pad and synth string sounds. Sort of a poor man's Massive. So you can really do a lot with the ES2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the angelic solo kick, which is just a 4 on the floor kick, and I'm going to make that my sidechain source. But first I need to choose a patch. So I'm just going to go down to synth leads, and then I will use the hammer lead. Now the reason why I like the hammer lead for this is it's got a lot of warped sounds to it already. Here's what I mean. So there's a lot of warped things already going on, and it just slowly gets brighter and brighter and brighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my marquee tool along with bar snap to just drag over bars 3 and 4, click, and then select split. Now I have 2 bars, 2 bars, and then 4 bars. And that modulation effect in the hammer lead will reset itself each time there's a new note. So now what I need to do is go back into the ES2, and in the sidechain input section, go down to audio if you're trying to use an audio track as a sidechain source, or you can go down to instrument if you have an instrument. So here's my angelic solo kick. Unlike using like a sidechain ducking effect with a compressor, this isn't going to automatically work. You have to set up a sidechain modulation down here in one of the routers. So let's say that I want the kick drum to affect the cutoff frequency of filter 1 and filter 2. Because the filter blend is right in the middle, it means that both filters are being used. So what I can do is in my target, I can choose cutoff 1 and 2. I could just choose cutoff 1 for filter 1 and cutoff 2 for filter 2, but there's also an option for cut 1 and 2. There's also cut 1 invert 2. So there's a few different options here. So I'm going to choose that as my modulation target. And there's different ways you can set this up. You could make the sidechain source the via parameter, or you can make it the source. It depends on whether you're using the effect as a secondary modulation source or a primary modulation source. For filters, I find that it works best if I put sidechain as the via source. So I'll go ahead and just select sidechain at the very bottom for my via source. And then for the source, you put max. Now, what you can do is you can adjust the depth of the modulation here, and you can play around with this to see what types of sounds you can get out of this. So what's happening right now is every time the kick is hitting, that filter is opening up really quickly. The cutoff frequency is opening up. So I want the opposite. I want to invert the modulation. In order to do that, you just click the invert button here, and it inverts the modulation. And then you can customize the instrument any way you like. I'm going to play around with the filter settings here and maybe pull down the resonance and filter one a bit. I think that's where that shrieky sound is coming from. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just trim up this note here because there's a gap here on purpose. I'm going to add like a loop in here, and I want that to be empty. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. That's just the sidechain modulation part. And by the way, experiment with this on your own. You know, set this up as sidechain in via, max, and source, and play around with different modulation parameters. You'll get different results for each patch that you load up and each modulation target that you choose. And like I said, you can also try just leaving via off. You just set it to off, and then you can set the sidechain to the source as well, and you'll get different results. So play around with it in your own time, and you'll find there's a lot of cool warped modulation that you can apply here that will react to other instruments in your mix. Let me go ahead and add the Tremolo plugin on here. It's under modulation. And what I want is I want a triplet, an eighth note triplet sort of stuttering effect. So in the Tremolo plugin, I'm going to go down and select the mono tremolo preset. And then I'm going to clock sync this, set the rate to an eighth note triplet. You can set it to any value you want, any rhythm you want. If you're working in like a straight 4/4 feel, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you could do eighth notes or 16th notes. Since my beat here has more of a triplet feel to it, I'm going to go with an eighth note triplet. And then you can dial in a setting for the depth and smoothing and symmetry that you like. And I like a little reverb on here too, so I'm going to go ahead and add Space Designer. And then when the beat kicks in, I'm just going to duplicate the bass line that's already here. And that can just layer with the other bass that's there. Next, what I want to do is find some riser samples or loops here, something that has a triplet feel like my beat does. So I'm just going to search up the word triplet, and there's a couple here. Triplet pluck pattern. That's kind of cool. Let me pull that in, and that da-da-da-da-da-da is going to be right in this 2-beat gap. So that'll be perfect. And then there's this triplet synth riser. All right, that's cool too. Let me pull that down here. Now, I don't want this going throughout the whole beat. I want to actually cut this in half. So let me just trim up the front half, pull that all back. Then I'll just add like a bit of like a fade to each of these. And then I'll just kind of pull these both down in the mix just a touch. And let's see what that sounds like. I've included this exact same Logic project in the video description below if you'd like to follow along or use this as a reference for your own beats or for your own synthesis modulation. So that's how you can use the ES2 and its sidechain input source along with the Tremolo plugin for some nice rhythmic warped synth effects. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. As always, thank you for the support and thanks for watching.